It all kicks off with the city in flames and people staring at the sky in terror. Just then, a bizarre monster with insect wings appears and is called a dominant species. People wonder how many giant monsters this thing ate to get all those weird parts. Next, the creature's red tentacles start wrapping around its own body in a freaky way. Then the thing opens its mouth and fires a purple energy beam with immense destructive power. This beam hits a building and shatters all the windows, sending glass flying everywhere. With that, the people on the street panic and wonder where the guild's elite team is. A desperate woman screams for help because her daughter is still trapped inside the building. At that moment, the police try to hold back the crowd, telling them it's too dangerous to go back. But suddenly, a mysterious guy appears, jumping toward the danger with a blue energy weapon. He flies at high speed toward the monster, which is being bombarded by purple energy beams. Our hero gets ready to strike the creature with his glowing blue light sword. He holds his energy weapon tightly, preparing for the showdown to come. The monster then fires a purple energy beam, but the man isn't intimidated and keeps moving forward. The mysterious guy holds his ground, ready to face the giant beast's attack. With a swift move, he launches an energy attack that hits the monster right in the mouth. The creature's hand is wounded, and the mysterious fighter seems very confident in his victory. Then he prepares to attack again, and we find out he uses attack, healing, and support magic. The monster looks surprised and in pain, facing the overwhelming power of its opponent. In the end, our hero stands over the defeated creature, hailed as the strongest who has mastered all skills. But then, a cruel voice echoes in his mind, saying he should never have been born. The scene shifts to a messy room at night, showing our character's harsh reality. On his desk, we see a notebook with notes on how to generate a mana circuit in the palm of his hand. Lying in bed, the guy wonders why he was born without any special abilities. Even though he's down, he keeps thinking about the calculations to use mana as efficiently as possible. He knows it's pointless, but he keeps imagining himself as a skill user once more. The young man is sure he could use those abilities much better than anyone who has them. Then he remembers his childhood and the only video game he ever got as a kid. In that game, he admired the class that could use all magics and master any skill on its own. The name of this class was the all-powerful Performance Sage, and it became his ultimate dream. He wanted to become that hero everyone looks up to, the one who can do anything. The scene cuts to a movie theater where a mysterious figure is watching the boy's life on a screen. The masked being finds it all very interesting and cracks a smile under his mask. He then tells the performer to suffer more, as he seems to enjoy watching the boy's despair. The figure says that the blade that torments the young man will become his own power. After that, the scene changes to a baseball game where our character is pitching. A blonde dude gets ready to bat, but his baseball bat is glowing with purple energy. The batter uses his power and hits the ball so hard it sends the pitcher flying. We see the exact moment the bat smacks our character right in the face. Despite getting hit square in the face, someone yells it was a good catch. The blonde guy gets furious and yells that he wasn't supposed to catch the ball while a friend tries to calm him down. Then the aggressor decides he'll pitch himself, and the others are stunned by his strength. We see our protagonist bruised and covered in bandages, but with a determined look in his eyes. He thinks to himself that gym class has changed a lot in 60 years, since now it's used to develop abilities. The scene changes, and we're transported to a quiet neighborhood with houses and rooftops. Suddenly, on a bridge, someone starts screaming desperately for help. A woman is panicking and begging for help because her daughter is in danger. At that moment, a red-caped hero shows up running, saying he's on his way to help. The mother keeps crying and screaming desperately for someone to save her daughter. The little girl is dangling from the bridge, while the hero assures her he's gonna save her. He manages to rescue the girl and holds her safely in his arms. The guy takes off his mask and tells the little princess he's glad she's okay. We find out his name is Akutagawa Osamu, a high school sophomore. The little girl looks at him as someone calls our hero's name from a distance. Osamu returns the child to her mother, who hugs her, relieved and grateful. But right after, the bullies show up, and the leader says he told him to take a walk around town in his underwear. A blonde girl in the group asks, who said he could put on clothes. She gets close to him and cruelly says that monkeys don't wear clothes. Then the whole group of bullies starts laughing at our hero's humiliation. But Osamu says those aren't clothes but a dream, because a knight needs formal wear to save a princess. The bullies are confused and the girl asks if the guy has lost his mind. Then the group's leader gets angry and grabs our protagonist's red cape tightly. The aggressor yells that he has no idea what he's talking about and tells the kid to start making sense. Just then, 2 police officers arrive and tell them to stop, as they shouldn't be fighting in the street. The blonde bully is surprised, and someone points to the pin on his school uniform. That small pin on his chest catches everyone's attention. The police recognize the symbol and realize he's a high-ranking skill user. They know that student has already secured a spot in the guild, even though he's only a sophomore. Because of this, the officer just warns him not to overdo it, as the protection law has its limits. The bully replies with a mocking, "Yeah," showing he couldn't care less about the warning. He says since they can't fight, they'll just play some friendly baseball and grabs Osamu's head. The aggressor's name is Gouda Takashi, and his ability is the C-rank magic ball, saying that Akutagawa is the target. Then the scene shifts to a flashback that begins about 60 years ago. Back then, dungeons appeared simultaneously in 782 locations around the world. Hordes of monsters immune to conventional weapons poured out of them, causing an unprecedented catastrophe. But whether by instinct or help from the gods, a bright light emerged as a beacon of hope. Humanity adapted to this crisis and evolved, giving rise to skill users. Ever since the dungeons appeared, every human began to be born with a single special ability. With that, dealing with dungeons and monsters became the top priority for all nations. Laws were created in the blink of an eye, and the skills for clearing dungeons were ranked from S to E. Because of this, the low rankers couldn't fight against the state-protected high rankers, and tyranny became the norm. They maintained their dignity by oppressing the weaker ones to feel superior to others. We see a scene of someone being knocked to the ground, dropping their cup, as an example of this oppression. Thus, a class-based society flourished once again in the country, and inequality became commonplace. And while Osamu was on the ground, the family he helped walks by and tells their child to ignore him. Back on the bridge, another bully launches a green energy attack toward our protagonist. His name is Agarashi, and his ability is the D-rank Storm, which he uses with a wicked smile. The attack hits Osamu head-on, who falls to the ground, severely injured by the blow's power. He tries to fight back, but it's useless, and he ends up being thrown violently against the bridge's railing. Down and hurt, he sees the girl from the group, leaping high into the air to attack him from above. The blonde girl laughs sadistically as she prepares a powerful kick to finish our hero off. The kick lands hard and he realizes he can't fly, use magic, or defend himself. She then steps on his head with contempt, talking about how useless a human without abilities is. Her name is Tabita Mari, with the D-rank jump ability, and she compares him to a caterpillar being crushed. Igarashi walks over and says she's getting way too excited, asking if she has some weird tastes. Osamu is badly injured, with a swollen eye, and can barely see as he gets beaten up. Gouda then readies his magic ball, and tells the others to hold our hero down tight. The bully wonders if the little girl Osamu saved is still around watching the scene. The girl is hiding, and Gouda smiles, saying he's honored to taste the ace's pitches again. The bullies hold Osamu while Gouda taunts him, saying he's just an ace who relies on others' abilities. But even hurt, our hero smiles and retorts that the aggressor's specialty is throwing balls to hurt people. Angered, Gouda lands a purple energy punch right in the guy's stomach, who screams in pain. The bully calls him incompetent and a parasite on society, showing all his contempt. He keeps yelling that Osamu has no value other than serving as his punching bag. Despite the pain, our hero thinks he needs to endure it and pretend he's fine for the little girl's sake. He clenches his teeth hard as blood trickles from his mouth, showing his determination. In his thoughts, he says that a real hero doesn't make people anxious and stands firm. Gouda gets even more furious and prepares another attack, calling Osamu incompetent trash. This makes the protagonist remember his father, who used to call him the same thing with disdain. We see in his eyes the pain of memories from a childhood full of abuse and suffering. The scene shows little Osamu cowering and scared by his father's cruel words. His drunk father blames him for them not getting government subsidies because he was born without an ability. He even says it was because of Osamu that his mother left them, leaving the boy devastated. We see the father's face filled with rage and frustration, taking it all out on his own son. The scene returns to the baseball game, where abilities are used for everything in modern society. A batter with a flaming bat prepares for a powerful swing, showcasing the strength of abilities. And in this world, Osamu sees himself as a simple catcher, trying to catch a fireball with his mitt. The flaming ball hits his mitt with such absurd force that he can barely handle it. The power is so great that it burns through the mitt and his hand, showing how fragile he is in this world. On the bench, the other students mock him, saying that if they hit it toward Akutagawa, it's a guaranteed hit. Our hero then fails to catch the ball, and his mitt goes flying from the impact. The blonde aggressor gets irritated and yells, asking how many times he's messed up, and tells the guy to get the ball. At that moment, the teacher tries to calm Gouda down, but he tells him to shut up, calling him a D-ranked teacher. The teacher is embarrassed and just tells Akutagawa to go get treated at the school nurse's office. But our protagonist smiles and replies that at least he has plenty of energy to keep going. Meanwhile, one of the bullies complains about being in the same space as trash, and that this is a good way to blow off steam. He continues, saying he couldn't live a life as pathetic as our heroes. With his head down and bruised, Osamu wonders why he's even still alive in this world. The scene shifts to the classroom, where some students are chatting about some news. One of the girls mentions that an S-ranked dungeon appeared on Mount Mashaik, and the others are shocked. This explains the sirens from the night before, as the mountain is very close, and they think it's a natural disaster. There are two types of dungeons, those that appeared 60 years ago and those that pop up randomly like this one. They are ranked from S to E based on mana level, and the monster's strength is proportional to that. To clear a dungeon, you have to defeat the boss monster on the lowest level, and then it disappears. If it's not cleared in time, the monsters escape, and to prevent this, countries train people with abilities in guilds. The students comment that for an S-rank dungeon, they must send famous S-rank people from the guild. The worst case scenario would be sending a mediocre B rank, as that would only delay the dungeon clear. Gata smiles confidently and says that they're fine this time then, since the strongest will handle it. A classmate with glasses sees Osamu and asks if he got hurt again, but the guy says he just fell, as usual. A girl named Saseda Yui approaches him, concerned, and asks if he's okay since he's always getting hurt. Osamu laughs and says he's fine. He just always gets hurt in the same spot. In a lighthearted way, Yui is shocked and wonders if getting hurt has become a habit for him, and if he likes feeling pain. She apologizes, saying her protection power is weak and can't satisfy him. Then, with a box cutter in her hand, she says she's going to stab him with all her might to make up for it. The guy is terrified and says they're having another misunderstanding, asking her to calm down. He tries to stop her, saying they should save that for later and read the play script. The drama club captain then says he has something important to tell them after rehearsal. Osamu and Yui are confused and look at the captain, not understanding what's going on. We find out that our protagonist is part of the second drama club, which focuses on plays without using abilities. It's a small club with just him, the president, and 2 freshmen, but for Osamu, it's the most comfortable place. He says that theater allows him to become someone different every day, and that helps him keep going. No matter how tough life gets, he can keep acting and have this peaceful time. But the captain breaks the news that the drama club will be disbanded, leaving everyone stunned. He explains that modern theater is based on using abilities, and the school has decided to abolish the traditional competition. Therefore, there's no longer a reason to keep the second drama club, and the school has decided to shut it down. Osamu is in shock at the news, as the club was his only refuge and reason to carry on. The captain also says that he and Saseda have been invited to the first drama club, but he feels awkward talking about Osamu, who already understands he wasn't invited because he's useless. The protagonist smiles and says it's for the best, as they'll have more opportunities there. He grabs his bag and says he was starting to get bored with the drama club anyway. The captain and the girl look sad to hear this, and he adds that there's very little the 3 of them can do. The protagonist says he's fed up with the drama club and leaves the room, leaving his friends behind. He even says he's looking forward to seeing the 2 of them thrive in their new place with a fake smile. Yu realizes he did it all on purpose, so they could join the first drama club without feeling guilty. As Osamu walks home alone, he thinks about the sacrifice he made for his friends. Suddenly, the bullies appear, and Gouda grabs him from behind aggressively. Our hero asks them to leave him alone, but Gouda just smiles menacingly. The scene shifts to the forest at night, where some guards are down and defeated. They are wearing armor and seem to have been attacked by an unknown force. A man comments that the guard's level is too low to protect in S-ranked dungeon, but he resigns himself, saying it's just a temporary watch until the guild sends reinforcements. we see Gouda and his group arriving at the entrance of the S-ranked dungeon, ready for an adventure. The girl asks if they're sure about this, as entering the dungeon without permission is against the law. Gouda replies with contempt that he brought Osamu along as a scapegoat to blame if anything goes wrong. He says that, if everything goes well, he'll pressure the school to keep the second drama club. Osamu wonders if Gouda would really do that for him, even knowing he's a C rank. The group enters the dungeon, and the girl complains she only came because she thought they were going to mess with Akutagawa. Gouda reassures her, saying the monsters get stronger with each floor, and they can have some fun. He even says that if it gets dangerous, they'll turn back. But his eyes gleam with greed for the dungeon's treasures. He says that to become stars, they need a spectacular debut like Mitsumi Aizamu's. The group of bullies walks confidently through the dungeon, ready to face any challenge. Osamu seems confused by the whole situation, but follows the group without question for now. On the first floor, they encounter slimes as expected, and aren't surprised by the monsters. The slimes have big, shiny eyes and look harmless at first glance. One of the bullies suggests Akutagawa fight them bare-handed, but our hero declines the offer. The girl mocks him, asking if he's ever been beaten up by a slime, and Gouda gets ready to attack. Gouda says there's no time for games, and that he'll finish the monsters quickly so they can move down. Suddenly, the slimes merge and Gouda is surprised by the unexpected transformation. The force of the fusion is so great that it throws all the bullies back with a violent impact. One of them is thrown into the air and is shocked by the slime's sudden power. Osamu is terrified by the scene and realizes the situation is much more dangerous than they imagined. A giant, scary shadow appears in front of them, leaving the group terrified. They wonder what kind of creature it is, as they've never seen anything like it before. The monster is dark and imposing, and they've never seen a report of such a creature anywhere. The protagonist says that if that monster appeared on the first floor, it can't be that dangerous. Gouda agrees and tells them to defeat the creature quickly and move on to the next floor. He readies his magic ball and launches himself toward the monster to attack it with everything he's got. But the monster blocks the attack with its blue energy sword, showing its superior strength. Gouda is shocked to see his most powerful attack defended so easily. Osamu is stunned, as the monster blocked a C-rank ability like it was nothing. The creature gets into a fighting stance, its blue energy swords glowing intensely. The girl in the group is terrified and can barely believe what she's seeing. One of the bullies wonders if the monster is mocking them with its calm demeanor. The dark being floats in the air with its energy swords circling around it. Suddenly, the creature launches a red energy attack toward one of the students. The attack is fast and precise, hitting the bully dead on before he could react. The blow sends the guy flying with devastating force, showcasing the monster's power. The other group members are in shock, seeing their friend defeated so easily. The monster then prepares for a new attack with its glowing blue energy sword. It launches a blast of energy that forces another bully to dodge desperately. The girl in the group is also attacked and has to use her jumping skills to escape the danger. She manages to dodge the blow at the last second, but the creature doesn't stop and keeps attacking. Another bully is terrified by the monster's strength and screams in fear, not knowing what to do. The dark being attacks him with a green aura and its energy sword, showing its versatility. The creature's eye glows with an intense blue light as it prepares for the final blow. The student is frozen in fear as he faces the monster's overwhelming power. Just then, Gouda reappears and thanks them for buying him time to prepare an attack. He launches his magic ball with full force, yelling for the monster to just go down already. The purple energy attack heads toward the dark being with immense destructive power. Gouda's attack hits the monster head on with multiple explosions of purple energy. Osamu watches the scene in silence as the smoke from the explosion slowly clears. Gouda smiles victoriously and asks the monster how it liked his most powerful attack. But the creature emerges from the smoke unscathed and launches a green energy counter attack with its sword. The bully tries to defend himself with the monster's energy sword that he had picked up earlier. He's shocked to realize that the creature is no ordinary first-floor monster. Gouda wonders why the monster isn't attacking Akutagawa, who's just standing there doing nothing. Our hero deduces that the dark being is targeting the magical energy from their abilities. The girl panics and says that if he's incompetent, then the monster won't attack him. The other bully tells Gouda to hold the monster off, so they can all attack together. Osamu wonders if he should save the guy, whose name is Okada, after all the bad things he's done to him. At that moment, Okada begs for help and apologizes for going too far with his taunts. Our hero thinks the request is selfish, but can't bring himself to ignore someone asking for help. He decides to help because if he ignored him, he'd be no different from the bullies who torment him. The protagonist jumps in front of Okada and tells him to aim for the monster's head from the side. Gouda is surprised and calls Osamu an idiot for risking himself to save someone like Okada. Our hero is shocked to be pushed aside by Okada, who uses him as a human shield. Gouda smiles wickedly and asks if he really believed an incompetent person could be a hero. He mocks Osamu, saying that besides having no abilities, he also lacks a brain. The monster then attacks Osamu, who is frozen in fear with no chance to defend himself. The monster's eyes gleam in the darkness as it thinks that those without abilities can't be heroes. Our hero looks down, accepting his cruel and hopeless fate. He's pierced by the monster's sword and thinks he doesn't even have the right to dream of being a hero. We see the masked being's hands clapping as if applauding a play. Suddenly, Osamu finds himself on a lit stage in a dark, empty theater. He looks around confused and wonders where he is and how he got there. The masked being appears in the audience and says Osamu's performance was magnificent. He reveals he was looking for a talent like the boys, a first-class comedic actor. The mysterious man smiles sinisterly, his eye glowing with an intense blue light. He says he's been very interested in Osamu for some time, watching his life from afar. The masked being apologizes for testing him with his servant, the dungeon monster. Our hero wonders if this man is strong enough to command such a powerful creature. The man asks if he despaired when he was betrayed for his goodwill toward his enemy. Osamu replies that it's too late for that because, deep down, he already knew it would happen. The masked being is pleased with the answer, saying it was exactly as he expected. He says the boy was acting as if there was still hope in the world, hiding his despair. The protagonist listens in silence with a serious and resigned look on his face. The man reveals he has a role for someone like him because he enjoys comedies of all kinds. He says he's watched all the comedies of eternity and gradually grew tired of them. To him, everything conceived by human imagination is the same, with minor variations of stories already seen. He smiles sinisterly and says that one day he realized something very important about entertainment. The unscripted lives of humans are the greatest entertainment he has ever witnessed. For him, the sight of someone abandoned by fate, clinging to hope and watching their dreams shatter, is the greatest comedy of all. Osamu understands that he's just a pawn in the masked man's game, mere entertainment for him. But the mysterious being says there's a misunderstanding, as the boy isn't done fighting yet. He offers Osamu the power to overcome his situation in exchange for being entertained by his comedy. The man creates a purple energy ball in his hands with a wicked smile on his face. He transfers the power to the protagonist, who becomes surrounded by a glowing energy aura. The boy wonders if the masked man will give him an ability since he doesn't have one, but the answer is yes and no, as the truth is much more complex than he imagines. The man says Osamu is smart and must have already understood the meaning of his servant's attack. He reveals that the protagonist already possesses an ability, which is why he was attacked by the monster. What he's giving him is the method to use that ability, which was dormant inside him. The boy thinks about his crappy life as a powerless nobody and everyone who humiliated him. He agrees that the man is partly right about the world's despair and his own situation. But if he were completely consumed by despair, he wouldn't be staging this play of clinging to hope. He decides he can change this tragedy if he can change the entire stage and accepts the challenge. Osamu says he'll fight for the masked man, but he won't show him the story he expects. The protagonist then leaps off the stage and back into the reality of the dungeon, ready to fight. The masked being watches it all with a smile on his face, eager for the comedy to come. He says there won't be an underdog story, and that he'll show a tragedy created by the masked man. The mysterious being smiles, satisfied with the boy's determination, finding the performance even more interesting. The masked man smiles sinisterly with sharp teeth, saying Osamu's performance amuses him. The scene shifts to the forest, where the bullies wonder why someone so strong was on the first floor. They believe Akutagawa didn't survive, and that it was over for him, as there was no way he could have escaped that situation. Gouda complains that he wanted to beat him up to relieve stress, but that he was useless to the very end. The girl comments that our hero was one of her favorite toys, with a tone of contempt. Gouda suggests using the club as bait again to mess with the drama captain and the freshman girl. The girl says she's bored with weaklings, but Gouda teases her, saying she likes the freshmen. Suddenly, a mysterious voice asks how they can be so pathetic, following Gouda's orders. The bullies turn around and are shocked to see Akutagawa alive and apparently well. Our hero has a wound on his chest, but looks determined and ready for revenge. He says that if it were just personal revenge, he'd make them suffer slowly and painfully. But with a dark and hateful look, he warns that if they touch his friends, he will end them. The bully with wind power scoffs at him and prepares an attack with his D rank ability. He yells that what happened before wasn't enough to make flowers bloom in Osamu. The aggressor launches a green energy attack toward our protagonist with a cruel smile. But to everyone's surprise, the boy dodges the blow with ease and speed. He moves with impressive agility, showing that he now has the power to fight. The bully falls to the ground, defeated, and thinks that they just borrow authority from those above to oppress those below. The protagonist says the bully is the epitome of this class-based society built on power. He faces Igarashi and says the guy has nothing, just like he had nothing before. With a swift move, Osamu appears behind the bully, who is shocked by his speed. The girl is surprised and wonders if that was an ability our hero used. Gouda realizes the ability is a wind type, like Igarashi's, but with far superior power. The protagonist says the play of revenge is about to begin, and that they will feel the pain of their own abilities. He uses the wind ability to attack Igarashi, who falls to the ground, defeated and humiliated. With a cold, determined look, Osamu prepares to face the other bullies. The aggressor screams in pain as he's hit by his own power, amplified by our hero. The other two bullies watch the scene in shock, unable to believe what's happening. They wonder if Akutagawa really used an ability, as he was known for not having any. The girl gets annoyed by the guy's arrogance and decides to attack him with her jump ability. She says he doesn't break, and that crushing someone like him from above brings her great joy. The bully leaps high into the air, ready to deliver a powerful blow to our hero, but Osamu looks at her and says it's a shame, because she'll never step on him again. He uses his own version of the jump ability and appears above her in the air. The girl is in shock seeing him use her ability with such mastery and power. She can hardly believe that impressive speed came from an ability. Our hero faces her with a serious look and a blue energy aura around him. Gouda yells that he used a wind ability and that people are born with only one ability. Osamu asks if they really don't understand what's happening right in front of them. With a confident smile, he reveals that he's using the abilities they launched at him right back at them. The protagonist's secret ability is called learning, and he's had it all along without knowing. The masked man explains that neither the government nor the guild knows of this unique ability's existence. Since Osamu himself didn't know he possessed it, no one else in the world noticed its existence. The mysterious being smiles, pleased to have discovered such a rare and powerful talent in the world. The learning ability allows him to acquire all skills his body receives, as if they were his own. Our hero thinks that even after taking so many beatings, he felt nothing because his ability was absorbing the blows. But the masked man explains that the skill only learns. It doesn't allow him to use the acquired abilities. For that, he needs another skill called reproduction, which allows him to use what he has learned. With the new ability, Osamu can now use all the skills he learned from the bullies. He uses the jump ability to dodge an attack and move with agility through the forest. The girl is shocked by our hero's speed and precision of movement. The guy leaps between the trees with ease, showing perfect control of the jump ability. He says he was forced to watch their attacks so many times that he now understands perfectly how they work. The protagonist explains that Tobita's ability isn't for jumping in the air, but for generating force in her legs. If that force is transferred correctly, even in a tight space, it can be directed anywhere. Gouda is shocked to realize that Osamu is using Tobita and Igarashi's abilities better than they can. The girl gets furious and yells at him not to mess with her, calling his fighting style pathetic. She compares him to a fly buzzing around, annoyed that he has surpassed her skills. She says she's on top and he's on the bottom, and asks if a gentleman like him can attack a woman. Suddenly, a slime appears and envelopes her with its slimy body as she screams for him to grovel at her feet. The girl panics as she's swallowed by the slime and wonders what it is. She realizes she can't see, hear, touch, feel, or smell anything with the slime blocking her senses. Osamu explains that the slime won't suffocate her, and that he only trapped her because there's a huge power difference between them. The scene shows Osamu's father's face again, representing all the oppression he suffered. We see a flashback of various scenes of humiliation and suffering our hero went through in his life, but now, with his new powers, he's ready for revenge with the magic ball in his hands. He explains that magical energy is the same after it leaves the body, no matter how it's used. That's why Gouda's magic ball is stronger when he punches instead of throwing. The protagonist also says his magical energy output is greater than Gouda's. Gouda is furious and wonders why Osamu is using their abilities better than they can. He doesn't understand how the guy can be so good at using the skills for the first time in his life. Osamu reveals it's not the first time, as he's imagined using these abilities over and over in his head. He prepares to attack Gouda with the magic ball, showing his mastery over the stolen power. The protagonist combines the jump and storm abilities to move and attack with perfection. Gouda is in shock and yells that he's supposed to be a powerless incompetent, and that this is impossible. Osamu attacks Gouda with his own ability, the magic ball, with overwhelming power. He tells the bully to hand over the ability, as he'll use it much better than him. The protagonist defeats Gouda, and says his arrogance and laziness were the cause of his downfall. He tells Gouda that if he had used his brain a little more, he wouldn't have been defeated so easily. Osamu wakes up in his bed and wonders if it was all just a dream. He creates a magic ball in his hand and realizes it was all real, and his powers are genuine. The scene shifts to the next day, with some students walking to school as usual. Our hero thinks that even though he can now use abilities, the scene on his way to school hasn't changed at all. He overhears two businessmen discussing a client and how a high-ranked salesperson inspires more confidence. Next, he sees a group of girls bullying an E-ranked student to get her on their side. He realizes that this vile society hasn't changed one bit, and the oppression continues. A student kicks a can toward Osamu, and he stops it with his foot before it hits him. The other students are surprised, and one of them asks if Osamu doesn't know he's powerless. The guy thinks that if he defeated all of them with his ability, nothing would really change in society. He uses his ability to crush the can on the ground, but wonders if violence will solve the problem. We see the masked man's face in Osamu's mind as a reminder of the power he received. Suddenly, Yoi appears and says good morning to the student who kicked the can at her, with a shy smile. Our hero replies good morning, and Yui explains she's collecting cans for a school campaign. The student who kicked the can looks embarrassed and tells her to go away with her friends. Osamu realizes Yui saved him from a fight and is grateful for her intervention. He's surprised by the girl's attitude and realizes she genuinely cares about him. Yui approaches him and asks if there's anything they can do about the drama club being disbanded. Osamu is shocked and wonders how she knows, since they are from the first drama club. Yui blushes and says that the time in the club was precious to her, and the captain too. She asks Osamu not to say such lonely things and shows that she truly cares about him. Our hero is surprised by her words and realizes she's right about the club. He looks at her with an understanding gaze and is touched by her kindness and friendship. Osamu apologizes and admits he thought he was doing it for them, but it was a selfish act. He thanks her for the cans, and Yui asks if he's on the school's beautification committee. The guy realizes that before dealing with society, he needs to value the people who support him. He suggests a direct approach to convince the school to keep the club, and Yui is startled by the idea. They see a hotel with lots of reporters and cameras out front and wonder what's going on. We find out an S-rank party has been called for the conquest of the S-rank dungeon. The crowd goes wild seeing the famous S-rank party led by Izamu, a popular hero. The guild structure is explained, with the government making requests to guilds, which form parties for missions. The term S-rank party isn't official but is used to honor parties with the strongest members. The definition of an S-rank party is that all members are A rank or higher, and half are S rank. Yui realizes that if they're here, then the dungeon was really S rank, and the danger is real. The masked man watches from a distance and wonders who those guys in the dungeon were. Yui asks if something is wrong, and Osamu replies it's nothing, trying to hide his concern. A mysterious masked woman watches the scene from afar with a serious, thoughtful look. She seems to recognize the boy and wonders if he could be who she's thinking of. Back in the classroom, the teacher announces that the whole school will observe the IA S-rank party in action. The students are excited about the idea of seeing Izamu up close and getting a day off from school. Osamu is thoughtful and asks if Gouda is hospitalized since he didn't come to school today. The bully girl glares at him angrily and says he's got a lot of nerve talking to them after what he did. Our hero calmly replies that they also talked to him casually after everything they did. He stands up and faces the girl up close, showing he's no longer afraid of her. The bully shows a slime on her necklace and asks Osamu to do something about it. He explains that the ability only summons the slime, and that if it won't leave her alone, it's because it's taken a liking to her. Our protagonist says that not having to worry about hierarchy and making friends as equals is good for her. He offers to be her friend, regardless of hierarchy, and she's left speechless. She gets annoyed and asks if he really thinks she's Goda's girlfriend or something. The teacher interrupts the argument and tells Tobita to go back to her seat, as class isn't over. The bully sits down angrily and promises Osamu will pay for this, with a hateful look. The scene changes to an abandoned factory, where Goda meets with a group of delinquents. One of them remembers when they were kids, and Goda cried, because he couldn't play baseball. He says he beat up the older kids who took the field so Goda could play. The guy says he's still looking out for Goda, and that it's embarrassing to have such a weak little brother. We find out the leader of the delinquents is Goda's older brother, and he calls him over to talk. Goda apologizes to his brother, but says Akutagawa is messing with them. He says our hero broke his ribs, and that he can barely move properly. Goda begs his brother to avenge him, because arrogant weaklings are a pain in the neck for him. The older brother, Goda Kenji, agrees, saying the strong need to set an example to maintain order. The scene shifts to the dungeon entrance where the S-rank party prepares for the mission. The leader, Izumu, explains the strategy with 4 on the front line and 3 in support. One of the girls asks how many recovery items they should bring, and Izumu replies to bring a lot. He tells Tsukasa to increase their magic defense, and the guy agrees with the leader's order. The female students are amazed by the skill and appearance of Izumu and his teammates. One of the students pushes others aside to get a better look at Miko, one of the party members. A girl gets pushed and drops her things on the ground in front of an S-rank member. She's terrified of having disrespected an S-rank and prepares for the worst. The girl kneels on the ground in fear, and the other students think she's done for. But Izumu approaches her with a gentle smile and asks if she's okay. The purple-haired girl and the other with light brown hair reply that they are. The muscular guy in the group jokes with her, saying his body is tough, and helps her up. The female students are impressed by Izumu's kindness, and compare him to other arrogant high-rankers. Izumu thanks everyone for coming to see them off, and promises to do his best to make them proud. He says he hopes what they see today will become fuel for their future. Our hero is surprised to see that true high-rankers care about those below them. The teacher announces that the send-off is over, and it's time for the lecture at the Nature Plaza. The S-rank party prepares to enter the dungeon and face the dangers that await them. Osamu is thoughtful, watching the crowd of students excited about the S-rank party's visit. He feels like he's seen the purple-haired woman from the S-rank party somewhere before. The school principal begins a speech about the importance of being prepared to clear dungeons. Our hero moves away from the crowd and leans against a tree with a bored expression. Suddenly, Yui finds him and says she found him hiding behind the tree. She teases him, saying he's a rebel for skipping class and hiding from the speech. Osamu retorts by asking if she shouldn't be in class too, and she says they just assume she was sick. Yui asks if he was looking at the masked woman from the ES-rank party with curiosity. The guy tries to deflect, but she notices he's obsessed with the mysterious woman. The girl gets jealous and says she knew boys like women with big chests. She says she saw a beehive, and that if she gets stung, her chest will get 10 times bigger. Osamu interrupts her and says that even then, she'd look like a monster, which leaves her shocked. Yui starts to cry playfully, saying he called her a flat-chested monster. Suddenly, the principal creates a fireball in his hand to demonstrate the importance of constant preparation. The fireball explodes and startles all the students, who scream in panic at the demonstration. Osamu and Yui are startled by the explosion and wonder what's going on. Gouda's older brother appears and takes the megaphone from the principal with a serious look. He announces that the principal's endless speech is over and tells all the students to listen to him. The students recognize Gouda's brother and wonder what he's doing there. He introduces himself as the strongest in the academy and says that anyone who wants to leave will have to get through him, a B rank. Gouda says his brother didn't have to go that far, but Kenji scolds him for his weakness. Kenji says Gouda still clings to his reputation to get into a guild, and that's why he's weak. Kenji spots Akutagawa and says he needs to show what happens when a no rank challenges a high rank. He threatens our hero, saying he needs to show the consequences of challenging someone superior to him. With the megaphone in hand, Kenji announces that Osamu will get beaten up by every student in the school. Each student must give him 10 punches as punishment for his audacity and rebellion. He threatens to burn all the students with fire if Osamu doesn't come out of his hiding spot. Yu gets worried about her senpai and calls out to him, telling him not to turn himself over to the delinquents. Kenji finds Osamu and Yui and taunts them, telling them to be good punching bags for him. Our hero remains silent, thinking of a way to escape the dangerous situation. With a cold look, he says he doesn't care about the threat and prepares to fight. Kenji is surprised by the response, and Osamu approaches him with a defiant look. Suddenly, the protagonist kicks Kenji hard, sending him flying with a surprise attack. Yui and Kenji are shocked by Osamu's unexpected action and strength. Our hero yells to Yui that it's time to run, and the two of them flee from the delinquents. Okada appears and tells Kenji that Akutagawa abandoned them and fled the dungeon. Kenji is furious to realize he's been tricked and that Osamu ignored the performance he had prepared. He smiles sinisterly, finding the situation interesting and challenging for him. The drama club captain watches the scene from afar with a worried and determined look. He says this is exactly why they need to fight, because they couldn't do anything for Akutagawa. He says the guy was abandoned and left to fend for himself without anyone's help. Osamu and Yu run through the forest, trying to escape the delinquents chasing them. The protagonist considers using his jump ability to get away but decides against it to avoid, revealing his secret to Yui. He decides to move slower to avoid suspicion, and Yui seems tired from running. Osamu stops and asks if she's okay, showing concern for his friend and escape partner. Yui says that even if the upperclassmen ignore the bullying, no one can really blame them. She explains that's why they left him behind, without worrying about him. Osamu takes her hand and pulls her along to keep running through the forest, looking for a safe place. They reach a lake with crystal clear water and trees all around, a peaceful and isolated spot. Suddenly, they're surrounded by the delinquents and realize they've walked into a trap. Kenji appears with a wicked smile and says they made a big mess in the forest. He mocks Osamu, asking if he really thought he could run from a B rank like him. Our hero smiles and says he didn't think the boss would come to him personally. Kenji replies that the others were too slow, and he got annoyed and came to finish things himself. The protagonist tells Yu to run while he keeps him busy, ready for the confrontation. He instructs her to go to the plaza's management office to get help and report the situation. Osamu tells her to report a forest fire, so the firefighters and police will respond quickly. Yu refuses to leave him alone in that dangerous situation, but he insists she go. He explains that Kenji's target is him, and that if they split up, she's the only one who can get help. Our hero says the safety of all the students is at stake and tells Yui to go. Yu agrees to go get help, but before she does, she decides to do something important for her senpai. She uses her protection ability on Osamu, creating a blue energy barrier around him. The protection ability reduces damage taken for a limited time, a perfect skill for the kind-hearted girl. Yui says she'll call for help immediately and asks him to stay safe while she's gone. Our hero thanks her for the help and prepares to face Kenji alone with his new powers. Kenji scoffs at Osamu's defensive barrier, thinking it's just a weak version of his own ability. He transforms into steel and says the guy's protection is an inferior version of his transformation. Osamu wonders if Kenji's ability hardens his body like metal and prepares to test it. He says he'll see if Kenji's ability is really useless and challenges him to a fight. The protagonist uses the storm ability to launch a green energy attack toward Kenji. Kenji mocks the attack, saying it's not enough to defeat him with his steel body. Suddenly, he realizes the wind attack is mixed with water from the lake, and is surprised. The water envelopes his body, and Osamu uses the wind to control the water and attack Kenji from all sides. Our hero creates a whirlpool of water and wind to trap the delinquent and neutralize his fire. The fire Kenji had created to threaten the students starts to die down with the water. The students wonder what's happening as they see the sudden rain putting out the fire. The lake water falls on the fire, extinguishing the flames and saving the students from danger. Osamu reveals his plan from the start was to use the lake water to put out Kenji's fire. Kenji realizes he was lured to the lake on purpose, and that he fell into our hero's trap. The protagonist says that once the fire is out, the teachers and upperclassmen will take care of the rest. He says that despite everything, there were still people who treated him with kindness, like Yu and the captain. Kenji wonders if this was all going according to our protagonist's brilliant script. Osamu faces him and says bullying isn't for weaklings like him and challenges him to a fight. Our hero lands a powerful punch to Kenji's stomach, leaving him breathless and in a lot of pain. Kenji is thrown back by the force of the blow and hits several trees before falling to the ground. The protagonist leans on a tree to recover from the impact of his own punch. Kenji acknowledges Osamu's clever tricks and says the goal is to complete the mission. He dares the guy to come at him and see what happens, but Osamu has other plans in mind. Our hero admits he'd be in trouble if Yui hadn't cast protection on him earlier. He acknowledges Kenji's strength as the Academy's strongest B rank and prepares for his next move. With a confident smile, Osamu learns Kenji's steal ability and keeps it for himself. Meanwhile, the other delinquents wonder why it's raining and the fire is going out. One of them says to turn up the heat because the fire is dying, but it's too late. The drama club captain sees the fire going out and gets worried about the situation. The bully girl appears and uses her jump ability to attack the captain with a kick. She hits him square on, and the fire he was trying to put out goes out completely. The captain gets up and says the fire is out, and the situation is under control. The teacher tells all students to retreat immediately to a safe place away from the danger. The bully girl complains that kicking a boring guy doesn't excite her, and that she won't accept being defeated by him. Osamu understands that by turning his skin into steel, he can increase his defense and prepare for the next fight. He says that by turning his skin to steel, Kenji is increasing both his attack and his defense. Kenji scoffs at Osamu, saying he's a joke just like his little brother, and that he can only copy half the power. The protagonist shows that he could only turn his elbows into steel, and Kenji taunts him about his talent. Kenji says that even to use abilities, you need talent and prepares to attack. He runs toward Osamu with his steel body, ready to crush him with his superior strength. But our hero blocks Kenji's blow with his steel elbow, showing his defense is strong. The impact of the blow throws Osamu back, but he manages to stay on his feet and withstand the attack. He realizes that Kenji's ability converts magical energy into a metallic substance and has a hardness limit. By concentrating the power in a single point, Osamu can increase the hardness of his defense. He explains that concentrating the power on one point makes the defense harder to break. Kenji attacks again, but Osamu manages to pierce his defense with his concentrated steel elbow. Our hero pierces Kenji's chest, showing that his strategy was effective and powerful. Kenji is shocked and doesn't understand how the guy managed to pierce his steel defense. The protagonist asks with disdain, and Kenji asks what he means. Our hero says, "What's up?" and lands a powerful punch to Kenji's stomach with his other arm. Kenji is thrown far back by the force of the blow and falls to the ground, defeated and humiliated. Osamu is caught off guard, and Kenji grabs him tightly. The protagonist is slammed violently to the ground, but Kenji doesn't give up the fight. Kenji says that even spread across the whole body, a B rank's mana concentration should not be underestimated. He says it's a problem when low. Rankers don't know their place, like Osamu and the woman from before. Kenji says the weak should act like the weak, so they aren't a nuisance to the stronger ones. Osamu thinks he could win easily if he combined the steel ability with other attack skills, but he decides he needs to win in the most humiliating way possible to teach Kenji a lesson. Kenji finds it interesting that the guy wants to challenge him to a fistfight without using abilities. He accepts the challenge with a confident smile and tells Osamu to go ahead and aim for a vital point. Our hero charges forward and attacks Kenji with a powerful punch, but the delinquent barely moves. The protagonist asks for more and continues to attack with more force and determination. He concentrates the steel power into his fist to increase the hardness and impact of his blows. With the concentrated power, he attacks Kenji with an even stronger and more powerful punch, but the delinquent catches his fist with ease and scoffs at his attack attempt. He asks if a mosquito landed on him and prepares to counter attack with his own technique. Kenji uses a technique called Twin, Hidden Divine Stalker intertwined, and attacks Osamu with force. He says it doesn't matter how much the guy copies the form, it's just a cheap imitation of his power. The delinquent yells that he's the only one who can handle this ability, the best in the world. He kicks Osamu hard, knocking him to the ground and showing his superiority in the fight. Kenji asks if our hero doesn't realize he has no chance of winning, even with him letting him hit a vital point. The protagonist gets up and wonders if it's time to use his real power and strategy. Kenji is confused and asks what he meant by that and what the attack before was. Osamu reveals the name of Kenji's technique and taunts him for giving his moves weird names. He mocks the delinquent, saying it's embarrassing for a high school upperclassman to have 8th grade syndrome. Kenji is furious at Osamu's taunt and calls him a bastard with hatred. He raises his hands to attack our hero with all his strength, ready to crush him. The protagonist screams in pain as he's hit by Kenji's powerful blow, but the guy counter-attacks with a precise punch to the delinquent's chest, breaking his defense. Kenji falls to the ground, defeated, and Osamu is surprised by his own strength and power. The delinquent wonders why his attack didn't work and why Osamu suddenly got so strong. Our hero explains that it wasn't his attack power that increased, but Kenji's defense that decreased. He says the bully misunderstood his enhanced defense and exposed his vital points on purpose. Kenji realizes the temporary enhanced defense was Yui's protection ability. Osamu reveals that on the first punch, he cast protection on Kenji to trick him. While he lowered his guard, the protagonist increased the proficiency of the hardening for the final attack. He says Kenji insulted the protection as a trash ability, but it was the key to his victory. The delinquent is shocked to realize that an ability that only hardens the body can have so many applications. Our hero says Kenji's ability is the inferior version because he doesn't know how to use it correctly. Osamu tells Kenji to swear never to get involved with them again and threatens him to make sure he complies. He prepares to deliver the final blow, but a voice interrupts him, telling him to stop. Suddenly, Gouda appears, holding Yui hostage, and apologizes to his senpai with a wicked smile. The protagonist is shocked to see his friend in danger and desperately yells her name. Gouda threatens him, saying Yui is a freshman he cares about and that he knows what to do. Pinned between two situations, he tries to think about what he can do. Yu tells her senpai to leave her and run to save himself from the dangerous situation. Our hero gives up, raising his hands and preparing for the worst. Gouda mocks him, saying it was all just an act to abandon the students. Kenji gets up and says he did something unnecessary, but it was well done in the end. He yells that it's 100 times better than being looked down on by trash freshmen like Osamu. The protagonist raises his hands and thinks of a way out of this complicated situation. He needs to find a solution quickly to save Yui and himself from the delinquents. Suddenly, the purple-haired woman from the S-rank party appears and attacks the bullies with her sword. She defeats Kenji with a single blow, showing her superior strength and skill. Gouda is shocked to see his brother defeated so easily, and Yui is surprised by the unexpected help. The mysterious woman tells them to relax, as it was just a strike with the spine of the sword. She explains that swords don't have spines, but she imbued it with impact attributes for the strike. Osamu recognizes that she's from an S-rank party and is impressed by her power. She says a B rank using magic to fight made her volunteer for the investigation as a precaution. Yui calls out for her senpai, worried about the situation and the mysterious woman's appearance. The purple-haired woman hugs Osamu tightly and calls him Sho, leaving him confused. Our hero and Yui are completely lost and wonder who this woman is and why she knows him. The woman says it's really her Sho, and Osamu is shocked as he recognizes her. He calls her Mayo, and the woman takes off her mask, revealing her true identity. We find out her name is Anagawa Mayo, and her ability is the A-rank magic sword. We see a flashback of little Osamu sitting alone and sad outside his house. A little girl approaches him and asks if that's his house with a gentle smile. She introduces herself as the new neighbor and says her parents are greeting his father. The girl asks if he wants to be her friend, and our hero remembers her as the older girl who lived next door. He thinks that if she hadn't been kind, his heart would have been shattered by his father's abuse. Osamu holds the little girl's hand and feels grateful for her friendship and kindness in his life. The scene returns to the present, with Kenji and Gouda tied up and defeated on the ground. Osamu is surprised to learn that Mio is now part of an SS rank party, and she says she joined after middle school. Mayo hugs our hero tightly and says he's gotten so big now, making him feel awkward. Yu watches the scene with jealousy and is shocked to see the intimacy between the two. The protagonist asks what they should do with the delinquents, and Kenji refuses to accept defeat. He says it was just a careless mistake, and that he'll be back for revenge soon. Osamu knows Kenji won't give up, and that he'll come back to torment him and his friends. Yu realizes the situation and worries about everyone's safety there. Our hero says he defeated them somehow, and that they are no longer a threat. Kenji threatens Osamu, telling him to watch his back on the streets at night, because he'll send his goons after him. He extends the threat to the mysterious woman, and the protagonist's family with a wicked smile. Suddenly, the two previously defeated bullies appear and attack the tied-up delinquents. They are sent flying by the force of the attacks, and the scene becomes chaotic and confusing. Mayo watches the scene with a serious look, and the delinquents are shocked by the surprise attack. Yui is shocked to see her senpai use an ability in front of her without hesitation. Our hero says he limited his abilities just to show the difference in rank between them. With a serious look, he warns that the next time they go against him, he will show no mercy. Kenji and Gouda are scared by the threat and realize they shouldn't underestimate the guy. Mayo says the law protects high rankers, but that doesn't mean they can disturb public order. She warns that if they commit any more acts of violence, she will take appropriate measures. As an A rank, Gouda calls out to his brother, and he agrees to surrender, afraid of the consequences. The two delinquents are left tied up and defeated on the ground as Osamu Mio and Yu watch. The guy thinks about how brutal society is and how those at the top oppress those at the bottom. He realizes that turning society's ways upside down isn't easy, and that Mayo is out of his league. The protagonist looks at Mio with her mask and powerful aura, and thinks he'll probably never see her again. The scene shifts to Osamu's apartment, where he wakes up and opens his bedroom door. He's surprised to see Mio in his kitchen, making breakfast with a smile on her face. Our hero is shocked and speechless to see his childhood friend in his home. He wonders why she's there, and if she's switched from mayo to salt and pepper for her eggs. We see a breakfast table set for 4 people, with a delicious meal. Suddenly, the bully girl appears and sits at the table, leaving Osamu even more confused. The guy wonders how on earth the situation got to this point, with everyone gathered in his house. A flashback shows the day Mio showed up at his apartment for the first time. She says she didn't realize conquering an S-rank dungeon would take so long. Mayo says the dungeon's gimmick is special, and that the guild believes they'll be in town for a month. Our hero wonders what this gimmick is, and if they still haven't found it in the dungeon. He wonders if enemies of that level are insignificant to an SS rank party. Mayo mentions she was surprised to hear from his dad that he was living alone now. The guy feels awkward and tries to change the subject, saying a lot can change in 7 years. He says a middle schooler becomes a high schooler, and things change. Mayo smiles and says Shu has changed for the better too, and she's happy to see him doing well. She asks when he learned to use an ability, and the protagonist is surprised by the question. The guy thinks it's obvious she would ask about that, and Mayo says he doesn't have to tell her if he doesn't want to. He explains that he's not actively hiding it, but he's afraid of how things would change if people knew. Our hero remembers the masked man and feels he shouldn't talk about him to anyone. Mayo says his magic power level is considerable, possibly reaching B rank or even A rank. She explains that A rank is a power level with great social responsibility, and that guilds would recruit him. The friend advises him to think about how he'll use his great power, as it will be inevitable. Osamu wonders how to use his ability, and if defeating all the bullies would change anything. Mio watches him in silence, waiting for his answer and his decision about the future. He says he's already decided, and Mayo is curious to know what his choice was. The protagonist asks if she can come make meals for him every day from now on. He's confused by the request and asks about her duties in the S-rank party. Mayo says her work schedule is 9 to 5, no overtime, and with 2-day weekends. Outside of work, they stay in a nice hotel and relax by the pool with the other party members. She admits she feels a bit uncomfortable with the life of luxury and the group's formalities. The friend says she feels more relaxed being here with him in a simpler, more familiar environment. Our hero smiles and thinks his big sis Mayo is still a down-to-earth person. He realizes that now that he has an ability, he needs to think seriously about many things in his life. Osamu goes to the second drama club and reveals to his friends that he can now use an ability. The captain and Yui are shocked to see the magic ball in his hand and can hardly believe it. The captain asks if this means the 3 of them can stay in the first drama club together. He's relieved and says maybe they didn't need all those survival strategies after all. But the protagonist says he'd like to continue doing theater in that club if possible. He apologizes for speaking out of turn, but wants to prevent his ability from being known by everyone. The guy says that when Yui said the time in the club was precious to them, he realized something important. It's not that he wants to do theater anywhere, but that this place is important to him. Yui is happy to hear that, and says she was worried about the scary expression he's had lately. She admits she was afraid he was changing somehow for the worse. Our hero calls out to Yui and is touched by her concern and friendship. He apologizes for worrying her and gently pats her on the head with a smile. Suddenly, the bully girl appears and says that's sexual harassment with a disgusted tone. She throws a handkerchief to Osamu and calls him by his name, showing that something has changed in her attitude. Osamu asks what it is, and the girl replies that they are signatures for the club's survival. The captain says he asked in every class, and Tobita complains that she was stuck with him because he has no friends. The protagonist sees there are many signatures and is surprised by the other students' support. Tobita explains that the class is divided because of the incident with the Goda brothers. Some feel grateful that someone finally stood up to the arrogant Goda brothers. She says that either way, they're a bunch of annoying people who just depend on others. Yui scolds her for talking about arrogance, as if it's not her problem too. She says she saw Tobita doing terrible things to Senpai Kodawa and glares at her angrily. The two start arguing, and Osamu tries to calm them down without success. Suddenly, Mayo appears in the classroom with a shopping bag and calls out to Sho. Our hero is surprised and asks what she's doing at school, and she says she was shopping. Yui and Tobita are shocked to learn that Mio was shopping for dinner and that they were going home together. Mayo smiles and invites the two of them to join them for dinner with a friendly invitation. Yui and Tobita are speechless at the invitation and the unexpected situation, and that's how they all ended up having dinner together at Osamu's house in a lively meal. Tobita jokes that who would have thought he'd have a wife at home and at his level. She calls him a sub-human and a beast for having a woman like Mio in his life. Yui is shocked by Tobita's comments and grips her fork tightly with jealousy. She says she's also good at cooking and suggests some game cuisine with the beast's meat. Mayo smiles and says it's good that the two of them get along better than expected. The drama club captain thinks it was a good decision to skip the meal to avoid more trouble. Osamu yells for Mayo's help as Yui attacks him with a fork in a fit of jealousy. Mayo smiles and says she feels at ease now, seeing that he has friends who care about him. She calls him Sho, and he wonders what she means by feeling at ease. The friend asks if he's having fun now, and our hero is left speechless. He can't answer right away, as the question catches him off guard and makes him reflect. At night in his apartment, he thinks about Mayo's question and his current life. He looks at the society around him and sees that nothing has changed, with the same discrimination and tragedies. Society remains unjust for the low rankers, and oppression is still a reality. But he looks at the petition with signatures to save the drama club and feels a glimmer of hope. He remembers those who are grateful he stood up to the Goda brothers and realizes he's not alone. Our hero feels his life is starting to change from that moment on, with his new friends and powers. A month later, on a rainy day, the S-rank party is preparing to leave town. Osamu is in his apartment and receives an unexpected call with shocking news. He finds out that his big sis Mio attempted to take her own life and is devastated by the news. On the phone while walking in the rain, Osamu learns that the night before, Mio had come home for the first time in a long while. Shocked, he hears that her dad found a farewell letter and confirms the name of the hospital. On the other end of the line, the kid's uncle confirms she's in the intensive care unit on the 5th floor. He goes on to say that thankfully, the surgery saved her life. But there was another problem. They found signs on her body that she had been consistently getting hurt. Our MC is completely horrified by the news and starts breaking out in a cold sweat, even in the rain. With a trembling voice, the girl's father says this means everything was true. Osamu then desperately screams for his uncle, unable to believe what's happening. We see the guy's phone screen showing the call with Mio's dad. Looking at the hospital, he wonders if something is happening to her parents too. So the kid confirms the 5th floor and uses his jump ability to scale the building in a flash. When he gets there, he finds the room's window shattered and someone lying in the bed. Inside the room, Mio's parents are tied up, while a man in armor is in control of the situation. The young woman's father thinks that he'd heard rumors about this, but never imagined it would happen to him. Then the mother wonders if they're going to be eliminated just to protect the image of the high rankers. The man in armor warns that if they don't scream in despair, nothing will happen to them. He explains that their business grew thanks to Mio and that getting rid of them would be a hassle. With that, the armored man places a hand on Mio's father's head and activates his ability. The man screams in pain as a dark purple energy envelops his head. The agent reveals that his ability erases memories, but they're more complicated than they seem. The agent explains that you never know what might bring memories back, and that it's a risk. So he suggests erasing all their memories of their daughter and placing them in separate facilities. Mio's father is outraged, lamenting that all of this is just to protect those of a higher rank. The armored man says they'll be able to peacefully name a successor in their new home. He continues, saying the state will provide generous protection under the guise of management. The young woman's mother panics and screams that she'd rather pass on than live like that. The agent repeats that eliminating them would be more trouble, but just then Osamu appears in the room. Our hero bursts into the room with an aura of green energy in his hand, ready to strike. The MC's hand glows intensely with the energy he's built up for the imminent attack. We see the huge hole in the building's wall that the guy made when he used his jump ability to get there. The kid thinks he's just gonna go all out and take down the enemy with one single clean hit, but Mio's mom screams for him to stop and not do anything reckless, which catches the boy by surprise. Her dad says the entire system would hunt them down, so Osamu tells them to just hang on for now. The agent finds the MC's calmness incredibly boring, and Mio's dad gets anxious. The man in armor says the kid is right, because resisting here is completely pointless. And right then, he reveals that Mio's memories have already been completely erased, leaving Osamu completely floored. The girl's father is in disbelief, barely able to process what he just heard from the agent. The man takes off his helmet and smirks, saying that if they both forget, no one will feel lonely. He complains that if the young lady had just kept her mouth shut, she wouldn't have nearly damaged the reputation of the S-rankers. And he continues, saying she's just trash to society now that she's left a hole in their forces as an A rank. The agent screams that the trash in this house will be taken out by the authorities because that's just the social order. At this, Mio's father gets furious and calls him a scumbag, while the mother watches in horror. The man smiles, saying that tomorrow he'll have forgotten his anger, and that's the fun part of the job. Then he points at Osamu and says it's all his foolish daughter's fault, and his own pathetic rank. Later, we see our MC standing alone in the rain as people walk past him. Completely devastated, the young man wonders how things got to this tragic point. He then puts a hand on his head and questions what could have led Mio to try and take her own life. The guy remembers they found signs of abuse and concludes the culprit must be someone close to her. He also recalls the agent's words about how she almost tarnished the S-ranker's reputation. With that, the young man connects the dots and thinks of the expression the man let slip, asterisk noblesse, oblige, asterisk. Looking up at a big screen, he sees Isamu with the slogan, unmatched power for the good of all people. In the middle of the crowd, our hero looks completely lost and helpless in the rain. An ad with the S-rank group promises they will protect the daily lives of all people. The protagonist thinks to himself that there's still no concrete proof for his suspicions. Nearby, two girls praise Isamu, saying he's a true hero, strong and kind. Two men in suits also feel inspired to support society when they see heroes like him. Another man in the crowd grumbles that he wishes everyone at the top was this decent. Isamu's status is protected by monstrous methods, and our hero thinks that at least that much is true. With a look full of hatred, he watches the scene and thinks about how truly grotesque it all is. Back in his apartment, he remembers they had dinner there just yesterday, and that the past month feels like a lie. He then finds something on the table and is surprised by what he sees. There, he sees a mask and a note with his name on it, and recognizes Mio's handwriting. The note is addressed to him with his full name, Osamu Akutagawa. As he starts reading, the guy notices the classic manga trope in the very first sentence. She apologizes and tells him not to investigate because it's dangerous, and he understands it was true. With this, the MC wonders if the girl was forced to do this by the agent. In the letter, she says she remembers the day they met like it was yesterday. The young woman keeps writing, saying that he was actually the one who truly saved her. She explains that she could barely handle the pressure of being born as an A-rank user. That's why her father decided to start over somewhere new, and they moved to his neighborhood. Mayu asks in the letter if he remembers that they used to act out plays together all the time. She says that in those games he was always the hero, and she was the heroine. With his eyes full of tears, he thinks that he remembers, and that time was his salvation too. Then his friend reveals that she started wearing a mask because she saw him wear one first, and asks him to keep it. The young man looks at the mask and the envelope on the table with a sad expression. She writes that every day with him was fun, because he didn't care about ability ranks. With a smile on her face, the girl states that he was her real hero. She says she bets he's mad at her right now, and the guy reads on with a determined look. At the end of the letter, Mio asks that he please not hate the world because of this. She finishes by asking if heroes aren't supposed to protect the world, leaving the boy heartbroken. In the letter, she says he has many important things in his life, and shows a memory of him with a crying Yui. The young woman advises him to look at the people he cares about instead of focusing only on the ugly things. And at the very end of the note, she wishes from the bottom of her heart that his life will be very happy. But our hero crumples up the letter and says he's sorry, but he can't do what she asked. He thinks that forgetting everything is exactly what their enemies want to happen. So the young man decides that if protecting this society is a hero's job, then he doesn't need to be one. With a dark look, he declares he'd rather be the jester who messes up the stage however he pleases. The scene then cuts to a batting cage called Doka Batting Center. Inside, we see Goda and Igarashi, as the latter calls out to his friend who's practicing. Goda asks what's up, and Igarashi asks if he heard about the A-rank woman who told them off. He shows a news story saying Mio is in critical condition and that it's a chance to find a new punching bag. The bully seems suspicious and asks if that news about the girl is actually true. Igarashi is confused by his friend's reaction and stammers, not understanding the reason for his doubt. The blonde guy says he's not worried about the girl in the slightest right now. He goes on, saying none of the other losers would have noticed, but something is different, and he states that Osamu can no longer hide his intention to finish off guys like them. Back at school, the captain of the drama club announces that he submitted the petition to save the club. He says the numbers are tight, but they did their best and hopes the school will value their effort. Just then, the teacher walks into the room and asks what Akutagawa is doing there. We see the MC sewing, and he replies that he was just borrowing the machine for the costumes. The teacher questions the need for costumes since there are no plays, and they don't even know if the club will survive. With a smile, the protagonist replies that he can't just sit still if there's a chance to save it. Yuri notices that her senpai doesn't seem shaken up about Mio, but it's not like he's forcing it either. Next, we see a group assaulting an old man in the park, telling him to get out of there immediately. One of them steps on the man and calls him a stinky old geezer, while the victim wonders how it came to this. The group's leader then turns and asks if they think he's just beating him up for fun. He introduces himself as a B-rank who manages the weak, calling them filthy, and says that cleaning the low-rank homeless people off the streets improves public order and hygiene. He explains this is an environmental beautification project entrusted to his NGO, the Roses Clean Network. He then tells the old man to scram to maintain the city's purity, but a voice interrupts him. The blonde man is surprised and turns to see who's talking to him. In his mask and costume, our hero says that if you sweep up that asterisk garbage, the city will actually get better. The leader asks if he's a friend of the old man or if he's just feeling sorry for his own kind. The man says a lot of people misunderstand the Gouda brothers, but he's different. With an air of superiority, he declares himself the strongest in the city and challenges him to a fight. But the masked man just creates a sphere of purple energy in his hand, surprising the bully. With a swift blow, he smashes the energy sphere right into the blonde guy's face. The leader screams in agony about his pretty face while his followers are in shock. Next, our hero uses a blast of green wind and sends all the others flying. The panicked leader offers Osamu an executive position, thinking he's just unhappy with his social standing. The blonde bully, with his face messed up, yells that getting rid of the lower ranks feels great. With that, the masked man unleashes a brutal and relentless series of punches on the guy. Our hero then coldly agrees that the feeling is indeed great. We see all the bullies defeated on the ground while the old man they were beating watches it all. The scene shifts to a mother and her daughter walking peacefully down the street at night. Next, we see a shot of the city with its tall buildings and glowing lights. A girl looks up at the sky and wonders if the thing flying up there is a bat. But it was our protagonist, who thinks that if he had the strength to face society, he could have saved his aunt and uncle. He continues his thought, regretting that he couldn't save Mio from the culprits either. With a determined look, he vows to drag those responsible onto the stage and judge them, no matter what it takes. Later, the masked man approaches the entrance of the S-rank dungeon, which is being watched by 2 guards. Using his wind ability, he slips past the guards, who are startled by the sudden gust. The young man manages to get inside unseen, and one of the guards comments that it's really cold today. Inside the dungeon, he notices security is pretty lax, maybe because of the S-rankers. Walking through the area, he thinks that he needs to get stronger to face such a massive enemy. He concludes that the fastest way to gain power is to use the most obvious option of all. Then our hero stops and asks into the void if the masked man is watching. In a serious tone, he says he has a few questions for that mysterious being. The masked youth looks toward the end of the hall and sees a bright, intense light. As he gets closer, he realizes that the light is actually a transfer device. The protagonist approaches a strange, glowing wall inside the dungeon. Suddenly, a very bright light shines from the wall, catching the young man's attention. With a serious look, he understands that this is an invitation for him to enter and move forward. Without a second thought, the masked man runs toward the light, determined to find out what's on the other side. After passing through, he finds himself in an arena and realizes the masked man set this up. He's faced with a horde of monsters and knows he must defeat them to take on the R ranks. From the horde emerge creatures that look like giant wolves with red eyes and ferocious snarls. Our hero then charges in to attack, fighting with agility as he dodges and counters. He leaps into the air and uses his storm ability, creating a blast of green energy in his hand. The wind attack slices through several monsters at once with incredible force. As he lands, he's surrounded by a glittering dust and is surprised by the unexpected effect. The young man spots a female-like creature and suspects the dust is a paralysis ability. He then decides to move fast to avoid breathing in the dust and getting caught by the ability. Just then, a giant armored knight raises its hammer to crush the masked man. The kid barely dodges, and the hammer smashes into the ground, sending pieces of rock flying everywhere. The knight then uses a dark aura and begins to control the rocks it just shattered. The rock fragments are hurled toward our hero, who looks up in alarm. He manages to dodge most of them, but one of the attacks grazes him, leaving a wound. With a cut on his face, he realizes that this monster also has a special ability. The armored knight just stands there, farming aura. A system window pops up, informing the MC that he has learned the skill telekinesis. The armored knight continues to attack with its floating rocks, giving him no break. Our hero realizes that dodging won't do any good if the attacks never stop, so he decides he needs to close the distance and finish the monster off in one go. With a swift move, the masked man dashes forward and lands a powerful punch on the enemy's helmet. The blow is so strong that the knight is sent flying backward, and its helmet shatters. Without its helmet, the monster is disoriented, and our hero prepares for his next attack. But the knight recovers and hits him with the hammer, making the guy spit blood. The masked man is thrown violently against the wall, cracking the floor with the impact. Down and injured, he feels his body lock up and can't move at all. He realizes the monster used the debris to hit him with the paralyzing scales. We see the female creature and the armored knight standing side by side, ready to finish the kid off. The goblins and wolves also close in, and our hero is surprised to see the monsters working together. Surrounded and wounded, he thinks that maybe fighting alone was a terrible idea, but suddenly, a blast of green wind slices through all the monsters around him. A mysterious voice tells him not to give up yet, and to keep fighting until the end. The armored knight turns and attacks the masked man with a powerful punch to the face. But to the monster's surprise, the young man counters with a precise kick to its head. The protagonist says that thanks to the abilities they used on him, he can move just fine. He explains that his body wasn't moving the way he wanted it to anyway, and the monster's ability actually helped. With his face injured and covered in purple dust, the protagonist challenges his enemies to a fight, saying he doesn't have time to waste here.